African Americans built this nation. We built this nation.
Immigrants did not build this country. New York City was a swampland.
There is not a single great achievement in this country that did not have black people being a part of it.
Immigrants did not build America. Slaves and their descendants, black Americans, built.
People are claiming that African black Americans who were sold as slaves from Africa built the nation of America. And some others are claiming that the immigrants from America, from Italy, from India, from Caribbeans, they are the ones who built the nation. But for me, I think, according to some of the knowledge that I have, it's clear that the slaves are the ones who built the nation of America, or at least to say they are the ones who built the foundation of America. And how can you exist without having the firm foundation? The foundation that you have is the one which makes you great or lose.
You know, you're just starting to get real credit for that. Okay, I don't know if you know that. You're just starting to you built the nation. We all built it, but you were such a massive part of it. Bigger than you were given credit for. Does that make sense? Right? But through generations of blood, sweat, and tears, and you deserve a government that defends your interests, protects your families, and cares for our own citizens first. My administration is fighting with everyone and all our heart to reverse the pain inflicted by Democrat leaders and to deliver hope and opportunity and prosperity for all Americans, but for African American communities all throughout our land.
At the moment he was saying that, they are starting to get credit that they built the nation. Which means if you are starting something right now, at the moment, I mean when he said it, then it means before you were not being credited for that. So then what happens? What happens when you don't recognize that people built the nation and you are recognizing it at the moment? So what do you give them? I don't know. But openly he's saying that they are starting to recognize black Americans as a contributor to building American nation. At the moment he was, speaking or giving out this speech, which is a bit absurd and, not interesting for me to hear. So let's continue to hear his speech, and then I'm going to be back with my final conclusion and comments.
Inflicted by Democrat leaders and to deliver hope and opportunity and prosperity for all Americans, but for African Americans.
So you telling me these are the people that built America? These people couldn't even build a wardrobe. It took black Americans to modernize Africans. And don't get on here talking about being xenophobia, because they have Natural Geographic African edition and they're not banned. You just have a problem with seeing who you really are. Y'all are embarrassed by who you came from and where you came from, because those are your peoples, right? You could bring up slavery. I'm not embarrassed about no slavery. Like, that's a story of resistance. But y'all are embarrassed by who you came from and where you came from. Because if you wasn't cosplaying black Americans, this would be your wardrobe, okay? Now, there's a verse. There's a verse by Jay-Z that says, hey, they claiming that they made Hove. Then won't they make another Hove? Y'all claiming that y'all make America. Why don't you go build another America, right, in your countries? Y'all came over here looking for an opportunity, not bringing an opportunity, but now all of a sudden y'all Bob the builders, right? But when you was in Africa, what was you building? When you was in the Caribbeans, what was you building, man? Yeah, it's just strange how black immigrants get all these superpowers once they leave their countries. All of a sudden they Confucius. They know all the solutions to all the problem. But back at home in Africa, they don't have no solutions, man. Back home in Caribbeans, in Jamaica, can't even step a foot onto your beach, man.
But the point here is whether the black Americans built the country or immigrants built the country, you all have to remember that your root source, the origin of all black people, be it living in America or elsewhere, they are either coming from Caribbeans or Africa. And even those ones who are living in Caribbeans, they were deported, or they they were sold from Africa as slaves and went to live there in Caribbean and in Brazil, in some parts of Brazil, and USA as well, and America. So if you are trying to say that you built the country and you are removing those immigrants from Africa that they didn't build the country, you might even find that those immigrants, they also had some of their families who were sold as slaves in the time of slavery. And you are trying to say that that person whom you are calling immigrant, he did. And then you are saying that that person who you are calling immigrant didn't build the country, where his great-great-great-grandparents maybe was sold as a slavery and took a part in building this America you are talking about. So it's all about history and how history still connects us. That's my view, and I want yours in the comment section. Let's continue watching the next clip.
Immigrants did not build this country. New York City was a swampland before foundational black Americans cleared it. Now that's either the truth or a lie. I didn't say the Red Indians came over here and cleared it. That's not what happened. I didn't say the Irish people came over here and cleared it. Find documentation of the Irish people coming over here clearing swampland. Find documentation of that. I got plenty of documentation saying that the slaves did, though. Plenty of documentation of that. So then who built the country? Indians didn't pick the cotton. Italians didn't pick the cotton. Latinos didn't pick the cotton. Who picked the cotton? Because without the cotton, there wouldn't have been no economy. Okay, so who built the country? Foundational black Americans. Stop playing. Y'all stop playing. Just stop playing with yourself, because we know. We know. Who picked the tobacco? Wasn't no Mexicans picking it. Who picked the tobacco?
That's a question, and I want you to help me answer this question, because the history is there. The history is written, and it can never be deleted. Black Americans, Black African Americans who were sold as slaves into America and other Caribbean countries, they are the ones who did that jobs other people were neglecting. And those jobs, they are the ones which made the economy to be strong and feed the other race, including those Indians, including those Italians, including those white people who were living in America. That economy built, that economy which is linked to slavery of African Black Americans is the one that fed them. And now they are claiming that they are the ones who built the country. I don't know, and I can't answer this question, but I want you to help me answer the question, because it's really confusing. Let's continue with my next clip, and we're gonna be back with our views. And I want yours in the comment section as we discuss about this topic, if really African Black Americans built America.
Y'all worship money so much, you're willing to compromise your morals and your integrity, your self-respect for it. But do y'all realize that every single man on our money owns slaves? And that without those slaves, we would not have our football stadiums. We wouldn't have most of our buildings and infrastructure, a lot of our agriculture, or literally anything in America. So if anything, Black people should be on money, because without us, there would be no reason for money to even circulate. My thing is, when are we going to stop bending the knee, sucking up, looking up, and aspiring to having proximity to whiteness and their values? They don't value us. They're mediocre and we're excellent, yet they're not giving us our flowers.
That's true. For me, I think that is absolutely true. If you are not giving flowers for the people who built the nation that you are enjoying, then you should be blamed. There's no discussion. There is no, doubt about that. You should be blamed. And if you are a white person or any other person who don't really agree that slaves are the ones who built that nation you are enjoying, I think you might take your time and rethink again. And it's time to start to recognize Black Americans and give them their flowers. Let's continue with my next script. And please remember to put your thoughts and your comments in the comment section. And I'm going to be back with my remarks.
There is not a single great achievement in this country that did not have Black people being a part of it, right? We are essential to the foundation and the longevity of America. And so I'm grateful to share the message of Black history with the rest of the country. I'm grateful that no matter what anti-DEI or anti-Blackness efforts there are out there, you cannot erase us. You cannot erase our contributions, and you can't stop us from continuing to make improvements both in our communities, in our country, and around the world. And so this Black History Month, for me, it's an opportunity to find joy, even in a dark moment.
Immigrants did not build America. Slaves and their descendants, Black Americans, built America, like quite literally with their hands, okay? Let me explain to you the issue with Shabuzi's Grammy speech.
I want you to pause for a second and think about this topic. Black African Americans built the nation with their hands, with their natural hands, not machines, not any other help, but with their hands.
Okay, we would not be where we are without them. However, they did not build America. And I think this is such an important distinction to make during Black History Month, because the comment, immigrants built America, is rooted in the erasure of Black contribution, okay? Specifically, Black American contribution, however involuntary it was. I understand that Shabuzi was coming from a good place when he said that immigrants built this country, but historically and factually, it is incorrect, baby. Chattel slavery built this country. And it is important to recognize that. People don't want to talk about slavery, but the reality is that slavery in the cotton economy is what gave America its legs, baby. There would be no America without slavery. The enrichment that is immigration did not come until significantly after slavery, right? Slavery dates back to the 1600s, girl, okay? All the way until 1865, where we get the Emancipation Proclamation. And even after this point, there were some Black people who were still being held captive as slaves because they just didn't get the news yet, girl, okay? So when you think about that, how long slavery spanned, okay? And the fact that we get ushered into Reconstruction and Jim Crow, and slaves are now repurposed as sharecroppers, right? Or repurposed into roles in which they are only good for service. They are only good for, functional positions that help prop up the country, not actual careers, not anything actually profitable. Like literally, Black people simply migrated from slavery into something else until we get into the civil rights era. For the people who think that we're arguing semantics, not only is this an important distinction to make so that we are recounting American history and Black history accurately, but also because the suppression of Black history, the erasure of Black history, okay, is what leads to the repetition of these atrocities, not on Black bodies, but onto others.
That is absolutely true. The erasure of this history and trying to forget that these slaves, or the role that these slaves played into building the nation of America, it's what is going to lead to the repetition of what happened. And this is really amazing topic that this creator is making right here.
Idea that Black history and American history, when it repeats, that it's going to repeat with the same people, it does not. It does not. And I think we're seeing a little bit of the proof, but that will never, ever, ever change the fact that the biggest and greatest group affected by American history, affected by the American plight, and that actually built America is Black American descendants of slaves.
I don't like the shit they say like immigrants built this country. No, the fuck you didn't. We built this shit. Us, African Americans, descendants of slaves, black people built this fucking country alongside white people. Nigga, no, like you not. No, we did this shit. We set the whole standard for civil rights throughout the whole world. Us, African Americans, black Americans from America, descendants of slaves. Us, we did that shit, and the whole world steals our culture. And they say we don't got no culture. We are the culture. We are everything that America is. So nah, immigrants didn't build shit. They capitalized. We built this shit. And we've been here long enough. We are not immigrants. This is our country, bro. We've changed laws. You know what I'm saying? We went from not even being called a person to now being whole.
Now my next clip, which is really amazing, is a white person, a white guy, who himself is pointing out and arguing and accepting openly, literally, and with a very firm, speech and speaking that black Americans are the ones who built the nation. And the very interesting thing is that he's correcting the fellow black Americans who is saying that white people are the ones who built the nation of America. And it's really absurd to see a person who is correcting you and is correcting you about the history of your fellow human generation. Now let's proceed with this clip, which I think is going to be the last, and I'm going to be back with my final remarks and conclusion about this video.
White people are not safe in the countries that they built.
I'm going to stop you right now. To say that white men built this country is to ignore history, and it's also insulting to the memory of those who didn't just build America, but who were literally forced to build it without being able to enjoy it. Because you fail to see that the United States was built not only by settlers and free workers, but also, and maybe mostly, by massive amounts of coerced labor. First slavery, and later various forms of prison labor. By 1860, the United States had 4 million enslaved people, human beings whose families were separated, whose children were sold, and who were forced to work for free. That is 12.6% of the entire population of the United States, who produced 13% of the country's GDP. That translates to 7 billion labor hours per year. At $15 an hour, that's $108 billion in wages, unpaid. And if you think that has changed, think again, because the 14th Amendment didn't end slavery. In many cases, it just transformed it into convict labor, with prisons leasing convicts out to businesses or using them to produce goods or services, often receiving less than $1 per hour. That's a $15 billion a year economy fed by a system that disproportionately punishes black Americans who receive sentences that are 19% longer than white defendants for the same crime and have a 23% higher conviction rate anytime the jury pool has no black jurors. So, no, this country was not built by white people. It was built on the back of black Americans who existed in a system that, until 1868, allowed the sale and purchase of human beings just because of the color of their skin, and today has traded the concept of slave wholesaler with that of prison warden. Your video is a disgrace.
Imagine $108 billion. Because he's trying to take the minimum wage in America at the time and then multiply it by the amount of hours that these slaves worked. And the total come to be $108 billion that the American nation owes these slaves who are no longer alive, but they have their generation which followed, they have their descendants. But they are now not recognizing them as the one who built the nation. And if you are trying to go away from the truth itself, it will not go away from you. Now it's the time to start to recognize the part that these black slaves played into developing the American nation you are seeing right now. As I'm closing, I can end with this simple statement. The solid foundation that you form is what makes a great nation. And this foundation was made by black American slaves. Thank you, and I want your ideas in the comment section to tell me how you understand about this topic. If you want to be with me in the next video, which is coming very soon, make sure that you subscribe on this YouTube channel And if you find this video to be interesting, make sure that you like and share this video. Ciao, and see you again.